Dear Kamala, you cannot be serious about running for president again if you're going to be putting statements out like this. Lindsey Graham was a caring, charming, energetic person. This guy literally said that Israel should flatten Gaza. You're not going to win on this. You're once again trying to appeal to the centrists, to Republicans, thinking that you can win them over, and it's just not going to work. You're alienating most of the Democratic Party at this point, and you want to be the Democratic nominee. No, next, pass. I hope this message can get through to you somehow, but please don't put us through this again. Just retire. Just go write books, okay? Go hang out with the Obamas, try to stay relevant, but just, no, don't run anymore, please.
I just want it on record that if you're one of the Democrats who wrote a long, flowery, beautiful tribute obituary to your friend, Lindsey Graham, today, or in the near future, or if you plan on writing one for Mitch McConnell, what do you mean Lindsey Graham is allowed to do everything he can possibly do to work against your goals, to work against your constituents, to make life harder for Black people, for women, for LGBTQ people, for literally every minority in this country? What do you mean that the constituents that you supposedly represent are constantly being targeted by this man, the administration he supports, by the way, because occasionally he stepped across the aisle and worked with you? Because he had a twinkle in his eye? What the fuck are you talking about, Amy Klobuchar? This is genuinely unhinged. It is one thing to say that you're sorry that you've lost a colleague, to do the professional thing. Thoughts to Lindsey Graham's family, whatever. That's fine. But if you can be friends, if you are friends with these people, friends with the people who are actively working against your constituents, where are your actual values? Because I'm not friends with people who want to do this to other people. I'm not personally friends with people who want to do this to other people. I might work with people like that, but I would never, ever talk about them like this. This is why everybody gets so mad when these people tweet out, someone needs to stop Donald Trump. They post a thread, someone needs to, this cannot continue. Yeah, you guys don't fucking care. You're friends with the people who support him. You're calling him a dear friend. You don't fucking care. You don't.
I don't want to hear any more Democrats mourning Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham because they were both horrific pieces of shit, okay? So we do not need to be mourning these racist bigots. I don't know what the hell is wrong with some of y'all. Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, they over here tweeting some bullshit about, oh, we're saddened by the death of Lindsey Graham. And then Cory Booker go get his ass. You know what? As a New Jersey resident, sometimes I'm embarrassed to have Cory Booker as my damn senator because I'm just like, how disappointing can you be? It's like sometimes you do something and I'm so proud of you. And then other times I'm just like, please get Cory Booker the fuck out the Senate. And the Democrats are always over here like, oh my God, we got to do the right thing. I don't get that mentality. It's like, these people were literally racist, homophobic pieces of shit. Okay, Lindsey Graham said that Israel could flatten Gaza. That was his words. He doesn't even care. He is pro-war. And y'all try to act like Cory Booker go get his ass on social media yesterday talking about, I'm so saddened of the death of my friend. And then, and the time that we were working together and Lindsey Graham told me, Cory, you gotta wait because I'm in a primary. Cory, we don't give a shit about y'all little kiki moment. We do not care. I am glad that both of those men are no longer going to be in the Senate because at the end of the day, they were detrimental to our community. You're a Black man just like me, and you over here mourning a racist. I don't get that. If I genuinely do not like you, and I feel that you are a trash person up until your last millisecond of living on this earth, I all of a sudden don't have good things to say about you now that you're not here. And nobody is telling y'all to celebrate these men's death, but I know y'all have heard the saying before, sometimes it's better just to, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Sometimes it's better just to not say anything because y'all constituents, Democrats, don't like these men. Okay, so y'all over here, we're so sad, and condolences to their family. Bitch, we don't care. All of us have families, and all of us end up dying on this earth, okay? Once we're born, that's the one thing that we're promised on this earth, that we're gonna die. And I don't give a shit about Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham.
Every single politician that released an embarrassing post like this, commemorating well-known fascist and racist Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, should be disqualified from any popular support ever. Because commemorating a racist, say it with me now, makes you a racist. Commemorating a fascist makes you a fascist. Commemorating a genocidal maniac, so much so that he got a special mourning from Stand With Us Israel, does in fact make you a genocidal maniac. And it is not more civil to life or humanity to commemorate a murderer. Lindsey Graham was a murderer. He sat and watched with glee while America bombed, with his support and his votes and his funding, Iran and Iran's schools and Iran's hospitals. He watched with glee while Israel bombed hospitals and churches and citizens and civilians and children and schools in Palestine. He not only did nothing, he supported it at every single step of the way, much like many of y'all are. And that is because you are not acting out of civility. You are acting as a friend. You are acting as a coworker because your job is the same. You are not opposed. You are different in how you want to go about it, completing the aims of empire. Because if your goal wasn't to bomb children in Iran, then you would see that as a war crime that you do not affiliate yourself with. But if you, like the Democrats, if you, like Amy Klobuchar, want to bomb Iran quieter, if you, like Kamala Harris, believe that Iran should be invaded if it does blank, blank, and blank, then you equally don't recognize the humanity of the people and victims of Lindsey Graham. And so, of course, you can be friends with him. Of course, you commemorate him. Of course, well, we didn't quite want to do fascism that way, but we can look past that because we both cared about this imperial country. So end the civility. I will not be civil with fascists. End the civility. I will not be civil with racists, even though I have the privilege to do so. I mean, look at me. Because there is nothing civil about getting along with, supporting, or commemorating racists. And there's nothing civil about treating them like their opinions matter, like their work was productive, and like they did anything good for this world. And it is actually deeply violent and uncivil to commemorate racists and fascists when the victims of their policies are still out here suffering from those very policies, or worse, have already perished because of them.
So Lindsey Graham died, and a lot of people were saying, come on, you know, if you can't say anything nice, just don't say anything at all. Okay.
Listen, if Lindsey Graham didn't want people celebrating his death, then maybe he should have lived a more honorable life. People don't get to rest in peace when they made the rest of us live in hell, especially a racist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic person like Lindsey Graham. And for all of these Democrats, yes, I'm talking to that cooning ass Cory Booker, that think that it's okay because you passed a couple of bills with this man to say condolences and all of that. Stop. Full stop. I am tired. I am sick and tired of us being oppressed. And then when the oppressor dies, people having an expectation that we have some decorum or some sanitizing of that person's life. If he lived a better life, people would not be celebrating his death. If he didn't put people through hell, people wouldn't be praying that he goes to hell. So let's all take this as a lesson. Nobody, none of us who are being oppressed by these people are giving the dead some type of respect that they never gave us in life. And so to the Democrats, and it's a bunch of y'all who keep offering all these condolences of people who have stolen our rights, of people who have literally gutted the Voting Rights Act, who are gerrymandering, and who are literally trying to send us back to slavery, cut the shit.
Quick question. Can the Democratic Party please grow a backbone? Not everybody deserves a eulogy. I don't know when we all collectively decided that if someone worked in politics, we're all supposed to pretend that they were some great public servant the second they died, but that's not how this works. If someone spent decades advocating for horrific policies, cheering on wars that killed civilians, and helping create suffering for countless people, silence was always an option. These same Democratic politicians who rushed to the internet to post these heartfelt tributes for Lindsey Graham have not said a thing about the people who have died at the hands of ICE. Do not tell me that these Democrats have to make a statement when someone dies, or else they would have been saying something every time there is an injustice involving ICE. Why are these politicians so comfortable saying nothing when the people who died had no political power? When it's someone with decades of influence, terrible influence, suddenly everyone feels obligated to post a heartfelt tribute about how much it was an honor to work alongside them. If someone spent decades advocating for policies that you claim to oppose, why is the expectation that you publicly praise them? Please stop pretending that every politician deserves to have their legacy softened the moment that they die.
Hunter Biden has responded to the passing of Lindsey Graham, and he gave the perfect response. Now, if you somehow missed it, overnight, Lindsey Graham passed away suddenly, and the response has been immediate. It's been everything from sincere condolences to absolute celebration and everything in between. And however you feel, however you're reacting is perfectly okay. Do not let anybody tell you differently. But Hunter Biden, of all people, was able to sum up this wide range of emotions with this post. Take a look. Now, you can pause if you want to read the whole thing. I'm going to sum it up for you right now. He's saying, look, essentially, I'm going to remember the Lindsey Graham from before Trump, the man that was friends with my father, the man that could disagree with Democrats, fight over policy, but then have a meal and be friends with them afterwards. And close by saying this: I will choose to remember the time before Trump because I believe in an America after Trump. And I think this sums it up perfectly. Lindsey Graham is two very different people, pre and post Trump, which is why there is a wide range of emotions of his passing. But we have to have hope that we can get back to the days before.
I don't like all those Democrats saying all those flowery words about Lindsey Graham. I don't. But I understand. Now, just hold on. Let me tell you something. When I was in corporate America, and I was a measly peon cog in a wheel middle manager for a little while, I had to recite the company line to employees. And it wasn't a matter of my morals or ethics or integrity or anything like that. The company said, say this. And then part of the responsibility that one accepts in getting into that role is that you're going to do that, right? It's part of the job. Now, I'm not talking about crime and things like that, just the company line, and sometimes you don't agree with it. And you still say it anyway. And I'm thinking about that because some of those Democratic politicians and who are varying degrees of statements, like Cory Booker is on one extreme, Kamala and probably Ted Lieu, I think, are on another extreme, and some of the others are in the middle. But I think that sometimes what we forget is that people that make these videos or that float around on these apps, we're not politicians, and they're not creators. They're not TikTokers, YouTubers. That's not what they are. They have accepted a responsibility in those roles that when one of them suffers something, they are going to say something respectful. Now, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm not talking about the man with the dead hands in the White House. Like, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about these other elected officials. They are almost always going to be respectful. And it doesn't take away from the fact that Lindsey Graham was an awful human being. He voted and was evil about so many things, and his votes and his words directly harmed a lot of people. And for those of us out here, we are laughing, making GIFs and memes and sharing things. And some of the people that he had relationships with are putting out all kind of information about that man. And so, but we're not politicians, and politicians aren't us. And I think sometimes we forget that because they are on these apps, but they're not the same. They're going to do that. And what comes with that is what they're getting. That voters have a right to be angry and upset with that stuff. They gotta get that smoke, because you can say the minimum. You can say rest in peace, condolences. But I'm telling you, politicians' first duty is to their body that they're elected in, and then to try to get elected, re-elected. And they will not put out bad statements or no statements, because that will haunt them down the line. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just trying to understand it and share, just from an OG, how it is going about, how many are going about. So it's just something good to remember. And I think we get things conflated because they're not TikTokers, YouTubers, streamers. They're politicians, and they're responsibility is to their oath of office and all this kind of stuff, but also they're almost always going to be respectful to one another.
So be prepared for establishment Democrats to praise and eulogize Donald Trump the day he finally pulls a Lindsey Graham and permanently leaves us all the alone. These establishment Democrats aren't just putting out these statements and going, well, I don't know why everyone's so upset about me being nice. I thought we just all decided to be the party of nice, respectful people. Amy Klobuchar and other Democrats like her make a very calculated political decision. They know exactly what they're doing by coming on God's internet and lovingly eulogizing Lindsey Graham. They know that posts like this, here's the rest of it, by the way, and the rest. They know posts like this, eulogizing some of the most evil men that the Republican Party has ever churned out, will alienate more Democrat voters than it will warm the hearts of Republican voters. They know that. They're not stupid. But it's because it's not about the voters. It's for their billionaire corporate donors. It's for Trump, and it's for each other. It's not enough for these establishment corporate bought Democrats to give a single sentence thoughts and prayers tweet. Corporate donors, billionaires, and who they consider themselves to be the ruling class require displays of love and devotion to the system. To forecast what I'm about to say in a later point, this is not a forced display of love and devotion to the system. They mean it. These types of posts are also for Trump because these Democrats, these big D Democrats, still grovel at the feet of Donald Trump to curry favors. You might call that politically savvy. I call that slimy. Third and most important point is these posts are for each other. Why? Because they love each other. Amy Klobuchar said it in her Facebook post right there at the very end. All the trips that she took with Lindsey Graham, all the good times and laughs that they had with each other. They are friends. These people leave the Senate floor and go to the martini bar, go to the same places after hours, and they giggle and gaggle with each other about all the shit that they're doing behind closed doors. These people are not real enemies. They are friends. They respect each other and the work that they do in the Senate, regardless of how monstrous and inhumane their ideologies are and their policies are. And do you know why that is? Because these establishment Democrats like Amy Klobuchar and Cory Booker that are waxing and waning about the good times they've had with Lindsey Graham, they think that highly of themselves. They think the work they are doing is changing lives and saving the world. So of course they also believe that in some twisted way, they believe it in their heart of hearts. Lindsey Graham is doing that same good work. I just think they're all doing the same good work together. These people are nothing. They are so far removed from problems of the real people in this country that they have no idea how much we actually hate them. And they are united in that like little isolated bubble that they have built for themselves in DC. Cory Booker and Amy Klobuchar know that they are always going to be closer in ideology and in just like overall general vibes to Lindsey Graham than they ever will be to someone like me or you. So yes, be prepared if you haven't already on that big beautiful day that Donald Trump decides to permanently leave us the alone, that these same people are going to come out and sing the praises of Donald Trump and call for everyone to unify as a nation and to not celebrate the death of somebody. They won't just stop at shaming us for celebrating it. They're going to pretend like he was a good man all along.
He's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics.
So Lindsey Graham has died, but I'm not going to spend this video talking about the obvious, his indifference to the innocent children left under the rubbles that Lindsey Graham himself dismissed as the cost of victory. What I want to do instead is give you the measure through a video with Lindsey Graham of how much Trump has changed and destroyed politics in America. This was Lindsey Graham in 2015.
If you can't admire Joe Biden as a person, then it's probably you got a problem. What's not to like? He came to my ceremony and said some of the most incredibly heartfelt things that anybody could ever say to me. He's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics. He is as good a man as God ever created.
Those were clearly the words of a different man. A man who thinks that you can have fundamentally different views on policies, but still appreciate your opponent's humanity. That man was profoundly changed, like many other politicians on the right, by the arrival of Trump. Because that same man would spend the next decade participating in the same name-calling politics as Donald Trump himself. The very man who once said that he'd rather lose without Trump than win with him would later align himself with the greatest political fraud in our country's history. The very man who openly opposed the nomination of a Supreme Court justice at the end of an administration and in fact said, "Use my words against me," if he ever advocated otherwise, would later fully support Trump's nomination of Justice Barrett. The same man who spent his career considering Senator McCain a close friend and ally would later defend Donald Trump when Trump made fun of McCain after his death. The very man who once said, and you heard him, that Biden was as good a person as God ever created, would then turn his back on him when Trump made a festering cesspool of the American politics. Ladies and gentlemen, Lindsey Graham's legacy of betrayal and lies stands as the clearest example of how Trump's participation in our constitutional system has destroyed American politics and the Republican Party. I just hope that come November, you're going to remember this.
He's dead. Well, not him, but we'll take it. Senator Lindsey Graham has died last night. He was 71 years old, and I'm going to talk about him in a way today that most people on this app won't, because I think the truth about who he was and what he did deserves to be said out loud. It is not with cruelty, but it is with honesty. And I think I owe you and my community nothing less. First, what we know for certain, his record. Lindsey Graham spent over 2 decades in the United States Senate voting consistently against the rights of LGBTQ people. He co-sponsored the Defense of Marriage Act, defining marriages only between a man and a woman. He voted against the Employment of Non-Discrimination Act, which would have prevented people from being fired for being queer. He voted against the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the policy that banned openly gay people from serving their country. He voted against the right for gay people to adopt children. He opposed the Equality Act and said he would, quote, talk until he fell over to prevent it from passing. He earned a 0, a literal 0 on the Human Rights Campaign's congressional scorecard every single year. And now I want to talk about the other part of the story, baby. The part that has followed Lady Lindsey Graham for decades. And I want to be very clear about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. There is no verified evidence that Lindsey Graham was gay. He's denied it publicly multiple times and said, quote, I am not gay. Now, I am not going to tell you that he was, although I've had people in my own life tell me that he was, and, you know, they have the paycheck to prove it. What I am going to tell you is what has been widely reported and widely discussed for 30 years. Persistent rumors about his sexuality have followed Lady Graham through her entire career. His lifelong bachelor status, his nickname Lady G, which reportedly circulated amongst Washington, D.C. SMEX workers. Chelsea Handler, Patti LuPone, Bill Maher, Whoopi Goldberg, even Laura Loomer, who testified under oath in a deposition that it was, quote, well known among Trump's staff that Lady Lindsey Graham was gay. Okay, I added the lady part. Now, none of that is proof. I want to be clear. None of it is proof. But here's the question that has haunted his entire political career. And I think it matters today more than ever. If the rumors were true, what kind of life did he live? Voting against his own people, denying rights to the community that he secretly belonged to, building a career on the backs of people like him. That is not politics, that is tragedy. I am a gay man, I have a husband, a daughter, and I have built a nonprofit for queer people in recovery because I refuse to hide. And I look at what Lady Lindsey Graham did with his power, regardless of who he was in private, and I feel grief. Not for the politician, but for the person who may have spent 71 years unable to be who he was. Rest in peace, little Lady Graham, with whatever peace that life will allow you.
Well, social media is not feeling the condolences a lot of the Democratic senators have been sending to Lindsey Graham's family. I understand it because for the most part, I'll just get into what I think just to get it out of the way. Because I'm just a person who likes to see both sides of things usually. It's in our human nature for us to want to be sad when someone passes away, right? You know, they're no longer here. Our first inclination is to feel a little down and remember the times we shared with someone. You may want to automatically send your condolences because that's what we've been kind of conditioned to do, right? So in a way, and don't get this as me saying I agree with it, but I could see why they do this, right? Especially this man was their colleague. They were around him way more than we ever will. You know, they were there with him day in and day out for sometimes. I know sometimes they go for recess and things like that, but you know what I mean. It was essentially like their coworker. You know, we see sometimes our coworkers more than our own families. I feel like a lot of them are trying to humanize him because they knew him personally. But just my opinion on it is I feel like a lot of them should have stayed silent or just kept it brief. Now, I'll have some of the posts that they made coming across the screen in the screenshots. In my opinion, I don't think Elizabeth Warren's post was that bad. I feel like she kept it kind of short. It's not like a glorification of the life that he led. I think she kind of kept it like, hey, we worked together, we chit-chatted on this trip, we didn't agree, but condolences to his family. I personally don't think it's that bad. I do agree with a lot of what the creators in this video were saying, and I honestly feel like a lot of them should have stayed silent, because whenever it's the opposite, reverse, if it were a Democrat that died and it was a whole bunch of Republicans, I don't know if we would have heard anything. Now, I'm not saying absolutely nobody would respond or send their condolences, but I don't think it would be as much people as it was for Lindsey Graham. I don't think so. And I feel like it's super convenient for MAGA to be all outraged about people celebrating. Y'all had nothing to say when Trump made that tweet or whatever Truth Social post about being happy that Robert Mueller was gone. I have a video about it from earlier in the year if you want to go back and get more details on that and what people were saying. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that y'all find the outrage now that it's one of your counterparts and people that you supported died. But anyway, I truly feel that if you spent your life, you know, life is short. You know, we have our grievances with life, but when you really think about the span of your life, especially after you pass 30, the years just seem to fly by. And if you spent the majority, and this is my opinion, if you spent the majority of your life wanting to make sure that people don't have equality, don't have basic human rights, was aiming to make life harder for people just because it made you feel better and that's what you thought was right, then I truly do not think that's a life that we have to sit here and mourn if you don't want to. Because what happens when the average woman who is trying to get an abortion because the pregnancy is life-threatening and she wasn't able to get help on time? What about that woman who just passes away? She doesn't get a condolence or well wishes or rest in peace from any congressman or, you know, anyone in the Senate. So why would we have to send our condolences to someone who is happy and enabled all of that to happen? All of the people dying in detention centers, people that are dying because they can't afford health care. People that are dying because they're homeless on the street and something unfortunate happened. They're not sending condolences for that. So I feel like if you enabled so many people over decades to not have equality and certain freedoms that the average person has just because they're a minority or their sexual preference at this current time, even if you're pregnant, I feel like if you're trying to make life harder for anyone just because it makes you feel better and you live in this like backwards ass life like he led, I don't feel that people have to give you condolences if they don't want to, because he had no qualms or had no issue like saying and doing whatever he had to do to remain in power. Look at how he switched up on Joe Biden. He probably served with Biden throughout his entire Senate career, I would assume, because Joe Biden was in the Senate for a very long time as well. So it's like, to speak that highly as you guys saw him in the clip do, and then switch up and kiss Trump's ass as soon as he realized that Trump was not going anywhere, and number one, beat him in the Republican primary, and then number two, said all of this, oh, Trump is going to be the downfall of the Republican Party, which we'll give you that because you were right and you called it. But what was all of that worth when you switched up and you are bowing down to him now? All of this just for power, but we're supposed to give condolences and supposed to be sad and be in mourning because you passed away. If you didn't do anything that's worth noting in your life and anything positive, then I don't think it should be assumed that you should have any sympathy when you pass away. You enabled the government. Let me put it this way. You were a major part in oppressing people and making sure that they never were able to succeed or have any like basic human rights. So in my opinion, I would have stayed silent. That's just my take on it. I understand some of these Democratic senators in a way. I'm not saying I agree with them or I'm defending them, but a lot of these people, you have to remember, guys, is they've been in the Senate or in Congress or both for years and decades. So I feel that a lot of them are just naturally inclined to just send condolences because that's just what you do. They don't really think about it like, hey, like Trump is doing this and getting away with it. Why should I do it? That doesn't come to their mind like it does for just us regular people. They are conditioned in a way after so many years of having to play the professional role to make sure that they don't seem like, offensive or anything like that. So that's just how I view it. It's just kind of a gut punch to see Cory Booker. Like, he did a whole video, y'all, on Threads. Y'all probably saw the screenshot already. But yeah, if you ever see the ratio on any social media platform where the comments are more than the likes, it's never good. Never, ever good. They were reading him badly in his comments on Threads, at least. I could only imagine Twitter and maybe his Instagram page. It's not good. And it's kind of a little sad, too, because remember, a little over a year ago, he did that monumental, 12-hour, or was it 24? I don't remember at this rate, y'all. I'm sorry. But he did that filibuster, and that was like a monumental moment for him. And now look at what's happening. Everybody is turning against them, saying, oh, we should have known this is how you were. You've been showing your true colors for years, stuff like that. I agree with a lot of the creators in saying that we can't just be nice all the time. I feel like we need to push back a little bit, because I think I don't know if I included it, y'all, but I think one of the videos said is that I feel that a lot of Republicans aren't going to suddenly just think and respect Democrats just because they're sending condolences to him. You're not going to get anybody to switch up for that. And I get it. They're just trying to do what they feel is right. But I just feel that we need to chill on being so sympathetic and showing empathy for everything, because as bad as it sounds, we're not in those times anymore. We are in the times where we got to fight back on stuff. And Lindsey Graham was one of those people who was doing a lot of fighting, and Democrats just took it in a lot of ways. And I also want to know, before I let y'all go, I also want to know, because I know MAGAs, y'all be lurking in my videos. Tell me what you think of that last clip that I included. And I wanted to include that because I might do a video on it. I don't know. Let me know down below if y'all would want to see a video on it. But what do you think, especially MAGA of South Carolina and Republicans of South Carolina? What do you think of this man who you most likely voted for decades, knowing that this was his history and what he was doing behind closed doors? Now, I know none of this will ever be proven unless somebody has some receipts from way back then. But what do you think? A man that spent his whole life fighting against what he was doing behind closed doors. And this is what I'm always going to say is and that's my issue with MAGA. Y'all want to put up this high and mighty, holier than thou front to get votes and to get power. But look at what this man was doing behind closed doors. And I don't care. I don't want to hear, oh, that's just hearsay. They could just be lying. No, too many people have come out about it, and it's been rumored for years that he probably was gay. So I'm going with it. Too many of these people have similar details, and it's so many people came out already within 2-3 days of him passing. What do y'all think about that? The fact that this man was so hell-bent about any person in the LGBTQ plus community having any sort of rights, just to even be married or have certain freedoms that we all have as, heterosexual people. What do y'all think of him doing who knows what behind closed doors with gay men and trans women? Tell me what y'all think. Do you feel like you've been lied to for 20 to 30 years? Look at what this man was doing behind closed doors. And I know y'all heard a lot of those details. Don't pretend like you haven't. You've either heard the rumors or you've been hearing the stuff that's been coming out. Like, I truly want to know, never mind Trump, like when some of this stuff comes out about the people that y'all hold in such a high regard, like, how do you feel when you hear stuff like this? Do you feel like betrayed? Like, imagine you voted for this man and he was doing the gay stuff that you despise behind closed doors. Do you condemn him for that? Do you think any less of him? But oh no, it's just the liberal and leftist people that you have a problem with, who may be gay or trans. But no, the Republicans and the people in power that take part in it, they don't have no type of backlash to them. But it's the people that are out and living in their truth that have to suffer the consequences when people like Lindsey Graham got to do it behind closed doors and pay money to people to fulfill his fantasies that he couldn't be out and proud about. So yeah, I want to know your opinion on that. Like, how do you feel? I know y'all won't tell me, or y'all gonna just say fake news like you always do, but I really always wonder that. Just like, what's her face? Just like, oh, what is this woman's name? I totally am drawing a blank on her name right now. I just did a video earlier that Kristi Noem, just like Kristi Noem's husband. Granted, he's not in politics, and he's not in Congress or anything. How long do you think Kristi Noem probably knew her husband was doing this, but stayed with him to keep up the front and keep the image of a married, loving, heterosexual, straight couple alive to make it seem like more palatable for Republicans to accept her? You don't just start cross-dressing and putting balloons as fake boobs and taking pictures as a fetish overnight. This woman knew about this, and now that it came out because somebody actually came out and outed him, now we know the truth. So I want to ask y'all again about that too. How do you feel? Granted, it's her husband. All of these people continue to show you that they say one thing to your faces, but do other thing behind closed doors. But it's Democrats who are lying. I don't know if y'all will ever be able to make that make sense, but you can try down below. But anyway, you guys, that's all I have. I appreciate you for watching. If you made it this far, you know that means a lot because I yip yap a lot. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about this down below. Do you blame the Democratic senators for releasing statements that are, glorifying Lindsey Graham? Or would you stay silent? Or would you send him a scathing a scathing eulogy like I think Michael Fanone did. Who, yeah, his was kind of harsh, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, I definitely want to know your thoughts down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you found any value in this video. And that's all I have, so I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Bye, see you later.